where the government and the industry are all tied in.
Right.
This is why I was really weirded out by this Huawei thing today when it came to Google and Google, because you want to say, well, if Google's doing this, clearly there must be a real reason for it. But then you know about the Google memo and James Damore, and you're like,
oh yeah,
what?
Oh yeah.
Because when you've done that, I got to go, okay. The guy just provided scientific information, didn't say anything sexist. He was just talking about the facts of studies.
Right.
And you fired him for what you called, like, what was it, reinforcing sexist stereotypes?
Right.
And it wasn't the case at all. That's not what he did. But so many people were complaining about his report on the data that they were asking about.
Well, also saying that he doesn't know math and statistics when that was his. Does he have an MIT degree?
Yeah. Well, he's a coder.
Yeah. So what happens is when you have this fundamentalist faith, you start with the conclusion and you reason your way backward. And if you're contradicting my conclusion, you're not only wrong, you're a liar and a sinner and have to be driven from the face of the earth.
Well, that's why I would ordinarily defer to them. I'm like, wow, this must be pretty serious if Google is looking to take Gmail off of the new Huawei phones and not update the operating system. But then I go, well, no, that's not necessarily what's going on at all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We don't know
what's going on.
And we might never know.
That is a problem when you do one thing like that. Like, there's giant consequences for what they probably thought was a PR disaster. Probably have to get rid of this James Damore guy. Let's just do it. We'll justify it. And I think the culture of the company probably supported it. It's probably very leftist.
It demanded it. It didn't support it. It demanded it, was my understanding.
The company, yeah. Even though it does logically. And the rest, that was really interesting, too, to see outside of the bubble. For the rest of the world, the people who actually read his memo and looked at it were like, okay, what is wrong with what he's saying? He's not saying anything bad about women.
Right.
He's in fact, he had a page and a half talking about strategies to get women more interested in tech. He was just relaying the information as it stands in terms of the studies that have been done that show what women tend to gravitate towards, what men tend to gravitate towards. But these aren't sexist studies. These are studies where they're just trying to figure out, why do more women go into healthcare? Is it opportunity? Is it desire? Like, is it just natural?
Cultural?
Is it cultural? Yeah, I mean,
things.
sure. There's a lot of things. And so data is not sexist. This guy was just talking about data. And then when you looked at his own ideas, those weren't sexist either. He was just talking about strategies that you could get women to get.
This is where I disagree with you. They will say data is sexist because it has conclusions that contradict what they, air quotes, know to be true. So therefore, if the data contradicts this, the data is sexist.
That's so crazy that that's the left. The left used to be science-driven, and they were the logical ones.
No, the left has, this is one of the big myths, and I talk about this in the book. They have, from Woodrow Wilson on, have this evangelical fundamentalist faith, a segment of the left. There's many people on the left who are very science-driven, who are like, look, these are the facts, let's work it out. But there's a big segment of them, which are very prevalent, where they're basically like jihadis. And you have this on the right as well, where it's just like, these are my conclusions, and we're going to force everyone to fit said conclusions.
So you think that even, like, when you go back to, there was the terrorist organization that Obama's professor was involved in.
Oh, the Weathermen.
The Weathermen.
Yeah.
Like that, you go back to that, similar, almost like an educated version of Antifa.
I'm going back to Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, but I mean, if you went back to that, it's real similar to what we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And there's a book called Days of Rage. And it talks about how in the early 70s, there were bombs going off, I think, every week in America. And they weren't trying to kill people. It was political. They called in the bomb threat and be like, look, we're going to set up a bomb. But the point is, there are other Symbionese Liberation Army that had Patty Hearst. A few of them. The Weather Underground. They really, this was their thing. And they blew up a townhouse in New York City. Killed a bunch of people. And now they're walking around and they're fine. It's a fascinating, and it's all been swept under the rug. Like, people always think that no matter what's happening now, is like, with regard to like these like neo-Nazi types and like the alt-right, oh, this is the worst time ever. It's like, the Klan used to be like a major part of both political parties. Like, what are you talking about? Things used to be... Woodrow Wilson is playing Birth of a Nation at the White House. Things were really, really dark before. But people don't have the historical context.
No, it's easy to not know what happened before, but just to think about what's going on now and where you want things to go.
Yeah, so therefore it's really, really bad, and therefore it must be the worst.
Right, yeah. There's a better way to live, for sure. But I think we went into real problems when we start telling people what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. No matter what it is, and you tell people that what they can and can't do, you sort of reinforce. I think one of the things that's going on now, in terms of like these abortion rulings.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, which is very sketchy,
Yes.
very scary. And the Alabama one, which essentially just outlaws abortion.
Right.
They're making it where your punishment for abortion is far greater punishment than the punishment for raping someone and causing them to get an abortion. So,
Well, they don't punish the woman. I think they punish the doctor. the law punishes the doctor.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
The
think
doctor gets 99 years, something like that.
That's right.
It's the doctor who's being charged, not the woman.
that's
And the
the
question
difference
is,
between Georgia and Alabama.
maybe,
right?
maybe you're right, but the question is, why do you want this? If you regard this mother as a potential murderer, do you really want her raising that kid?
Right. Force her to. Gun
Yeah.
to her head. 99 years in jail. Oh. Yeah.
The other thing is that I am very torn on this issue, abortion. On Twitter, it's such a cesspool of people who don't understand each other. One group saying, "Oh, it's all about you want to control women's body," and the other being like, "Oh, you want to murder babies." No, they don't want to murder babies, and they don't care about the woman. They care about what they perceive to be the infant. So I try to talk to both, and it's just noise.
Yeah, these are rigid ideologies.
And they're not persuasive. If you tell someone who is pro-choice, who would otherwise be amenable to your point of view, well, you just want to murder kids, it's like, well, I don't, so there's nothing to talk anymore.
Did you see that state representative that was walking around in front of a abortion clinic and was trying to get the names of these kids that were there? That were.
Oh, yeah. And he's still on Twitter.
Yeah.
No consequences.
That's crazy.
He was trying to dox kids.
He was asking for it. He was going to keep offering money, bribing.
Yeah.
$100 to get the names of whoever these people are.
It's
And then
insane.
he gets to this one boy and he puts this boy's face on Twitter. He's like just some meek, shy Christian man.
Right.
This is a big guy. He's big and aggressive, and he's getting in people's faces with the camera.
Right.
And then he's putting them online, and he's getting a lot of attention and fame for it. And it's crazy.
And meanwhile, my buddy Mike, he has a parody account of AOC. He gets kicked off.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And it says parody.
Yeah. Why can't you do that? I mean, I don't think what he did was even rough.
It wasn't.
It wasn't anything
At
really
all.
awful. Like, I read some of the tweets. I was like, they're just kind of funny.
They're a parody.
Yeah.
What about Saturday Night Live? I mean, come on.
Exactly. What Alec Baldwin does to the president every fucking day on Saturday Night Live. Every week, he's doing a fucking Trump impression
Right.
almost.
That's what he should. That's
Yeah,
their job.
exactly.
So it's a complete double standard. And the other thing I'll defend Jack in this regard, what we were talking about earlier, I'm sure the pressure he gets internally
Oh my God.
is off the charts.
Off the charts.
And he even said this explicitly. He goes, my whole company was yelling at me to kick off Alex. For a long time. He refused to do it for a while.
It's weird that they don't see the consequences. They don't understand that this is going to go to a bad place.
But they do see the positive consequences where they're preaching to their own tribe, and basically people who aren't like us get to go out in the wilderness.
Well, I think human beings are way better at expressing themselves today than they ever have been in the past. And I think one of the reasons why is the free expression that we so enjoy, and that we have enjoyed, like if you look at the history of the message you could get out just 40 or 50 years ago as opposed to what you can get out today, and then you looked at how culture has radically evolved over the last 40 to 50 years versus where if everything was stagnant like it was in 1950, we would think, if you watch like 1950s films or read books about the 1950s, the behavior that people got away with was way different than it is today.
Of course.
Things are getting better. One of the reasons why these things are getting better is because people can see everything. You can talk through all the details.
Yes.
If you think you could just cut off the ugly stuff or cut off the Nazi stuff and cut off this stuff, and you're going to keep people from getting recruited, so you're going to kill this and you're going to deplatform this, you're also going to enforce assholes to say, like, there's a reason why they're silencing us. There's a reason why. Instead of having people going, hey, no, you guys are shitheads, and this is a stupid idea, and you guys are all ignorant fools, and your perception of things is so off. We're going to explain to you why it's off, and we're going to all work this out together.
And when they say there's a secret elite who's running this country and wants to control your life,
they mean Jews, don't they?
Shit, chick is up. They know. Shut it down. But this is their proof. They can point to Twitter and Facebook, and they could also say, hey, they're picking off the same exact people on every platform. Isn't that a coincidence?
Yep.
Whereas David Duke is still on Twitter.
Is he really?
Yeah, of course.
That's hilarious.
Is it?
No.
But it's telling.
No, it's not hilarious. Like, ha.
I know, but
like, what the
yeah.
fuck? They got rid of Farrakhan. They didn't get rid of David Duke.
Right. Because David Duke serves a purpose.
What purpose?
Because he's a good foil for the left. Because when David Duke endorses a Republican, the Republicans are racist. When David Duke endorses Ilhan Omar or Keith Ellison, crickets.
Yeah, he'll be a good bad guy on payroll. Like, if I was the Democratic Party, I'd say, look, Dave, the jig is over, okay? Everybody knows you're never going to be president.
Right.
Never going to really run for office anywhere legitimate, but...
He's not that good of a bad guy.
Valuable. How about this, David? I'll give you $400,000 a year. All you have to do is every now and then, I'm going to call you up and I'm going to say, Dave, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting if David Duke endorsed this asshole. And then David Duke just starts talking about this person being a fine American and a white nationalist and all these different. Just make up a bunch of quotes and have David Duke put it up there.
A lot of people, when that
You never
happens,
shake that off.
a lot of people think he's controlled, like not him specifically.
Controlled opposition.
He's controlled opposition.
Ah, that's my favorite.
All right, when someone's not banned, they must be controlled opposition.
That is one of my favorite
I love that.
conspiracy dork theories.
It is. A controlled opposition is someone who you don't like who hasn't been banned yet.
Yeah, controlled opposition. He's a useful idiot.
Yeah.
Controlled opposition. It's like when people get into these.
I've been accused of being a CIA plan.
Probably right. It's probably one of these.
A is for anarchy.
You know the term cognoscenti, like
Oh,
those,
yeah.
those in the know.
In the know, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great term, and that's perfect for this. It's like, oh, useful idiot, oh, controlled opposition. I'm in the know. I'm one of the cognoscenti.
Yeah.
You're not to sneak this by me. I understand. But meanwhile, sometimes they're right, which is why it's really fucked up. It's like sometimes there is controlled opposition. Sometimes there is. Sometimes just fake websites that talk
Which
about
is
things
someone.
because somebody wants it.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to win a lawsuit. You know, and look at this. I'm dear. Look, this case that you're working on. Come and look at this website I found.
But that's
They're
why
killing babies.
that's why it's so important for there to be venues for those people. If someone is crazy or brilliant, it
Right.
often looks the same.
Right, but how does a person know whether or not that website's right? Or, well, once we got to Scientific American, we all
Yeah,
agreed,
yeah.
like, okay, this is legit. This is a legit claim. They were basically talking about cells, though. They were talking about human cells.
I don't know any better way.
Destroying human cells, but here's a problem with that. What I was going to say is at what scale? Because, by the way, they've shown that certain elements in plants in the laboratory environment will destroy cells. Even like phytonutrients, and there was something one of the head guys for the carnivore diet, Sean Baker, posted on his Twitter a while back showing that you can make a lot of weird arguments based on cells, like how things respond to cells. Doesn't necessarily mean once it gets through the
organism stage, yeah. The only way, in my view, and I'm not an expert on this, is discourse and having a platform where people can argue at each other. And,
Yes.
and you could stand by and watch and see things. Otherwise, if you're silencing, it's very, as we talked before, and I think any right-minded person would agree, it's a very, very slippery slope.
I agree. Did you see the Ben Shapiro meltdown on BBC?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
That's a good example. It's a good example. Look, he didn't handle it well. He knows he didn't handle it well, and I like Ben.
But you know
I
what's-
like him a lot. I think he's a really nice guy. I like talking to him. I don't agree with him on many things, but I really like him. He's a really good guy. And I think he's a very smart guy. And I think he's smart enough to admit that he fucked up.
He did. He went on Twitter, and
Instantly.
here's the thing. I did a meme making fun of him. It's on my Insta. And people are white knighting for him. And I'm like, he owned that
Yeah.
he played it wrong.
He fucked up.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I got. And that's to his credit.
Yeah, and it highlights to me, more so than anything, the problem with two things. One, doing a remote show.
Sure.
Where you're in Los Angeles, they're in the UK.
Sure.
Where, he was talking to him like he wasn't there. The British guy was. Because he wasn't really there.
Right.
And then the other part is that short time format. You don't have enough time. You don't have enough time to have a conversation and just talk.
But Ben knows this. Ben is a pro.
But he's-
And he knows what the BBC is too.
But he's also a pro at doing those things.
Yes.
You just shout talking points at each other. You talk over and Ben talks super fast. Because when he talks super fast, it's really hard to keep up with him. And he sounds smarter than you. Like he's very smart
Yes.
and articulate, and he talks fast.
I-
It's like, woo, it's hard to
He
handle.
rose to prominence when he was on Piers Morgan.
Yes.
Talking about guns.
Owned
And
him.
if you thought that BBC interview was rude, Piers at one point just goes, "You're a real stupid man, aren't you?" Like, that's your line?
Wow.
And Ben didn't storm off. He was just like, "No, I just think when a government becomes usurpacious, that it's very important for the citizens to have,
Yeah.
And he handled
That's a
it.
good impression.
Thank you. Well, we go to the same shul. He handled it amazingly. So for him, as he admitted, for him to lose his shit, and also to be like, "I'm popular and I've never heard of you,"
Yeah.
that's just because you never heard of someone, and I'm sure he would admit this, is of no relevance to their the validity of what they're doing.
Yeah, that's why I was shocked when I went to JoJo Siwa last night. It was sold out. I don't know what the fuck. I literally didn't know who she was until a week ago. A lot of people know her.
I'm the
Probably more so than Ben Shapiro.
I'm the second most famous Joe here. What the fuck happened?
And she's 16. If like Ben Shapiro did a speech at the Microsoft Center, I don't know how many tickets he sells if he does speeches, but it's a
a
hard
lot.
sell. 7,000 people is a hard sell.
You don't think Ben Shapiro could sell 7,000 tickets?
That's a lot.
Yeah, but that's basically you're getting a 2-hour speech in 1 hour. So that's, already half the double the value.
No, but it's getting people out of their house to pay money to come hear people talk. Like most of these, like when these guys are doing these talks, unless it's Jordan can kind of do a football stadium right
Yeah.
now. But a lot of these guys are doing like 2,000 seaters.
Okay.
This is 7,000. This is a big jump.
Okay, 2
A
to
lot of
7.
people.
I bet you he could fill it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's possible. I don't know. I don't know if he's doing live ones like that. There's a lot of people doing live shows now. It's very interesting because they're
It's
doing
very
these-
old timey too.
very old timey.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see people that are interested in intellectual. Like Sam Harris has some fantastic, and I like some of Sam's live ones too because he's funny in them, which he gets a chance to actually work to the crowd.
Yeah.
I was talking to him about it. I'm like, you have good timing.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like a comic. Like some of the stuff you say actually makes me laugh when he does live ones, as opposed to he's very like rational and somber when he's doing straight, just conversation ones.
You know this is a performer, and same with me. Like if you're in front of that audience and the laugh is out of proportion because there's so many of them, and you have that one-liner, it makes you want to be more on, and it's like it's just beating its tail, and it's really, really exciting.
It's also like a nod to the crowd that you know that they're there and you're trying to entertain them, you appreciate them. Like you say something fun, like you're doing it. They know you're doing it because they're there, and it's funny.
And when it's improv, it's much more intimate. You know, when you have that one-liner that you knew wasn't part of his set speech, it's great.
So they're doing theirs their way, where it's just conversations, and it's interesting because they're getting these giant crowds, and they're also like do produced ones too. Like Radiolab does a produced live one, and it's really interesting. They'll bring someone out and they'll play sound clips, and I don't know if they have a video element of it. Let's see. I think they do. I think they have like visuals too. But they're doing it all in these big ass theaters, and people love it. They come out to see it. So for someone who listens to like Radiolab every week, and they get a chance to go and see it live, it's like, wow, I can't believe it's here. It's a part of my life.
And this is the danger of the whole
right there?
the Twitter, Facebook stuff. People are desperate and excited to hear new ideas, thought-provoking people, even if you disagree, right? Two of my favorite people, like a lot of times if you hear them talk, even if you don't care what they're saying or disagree with them, the energy, and it's like, this is fascinating, it's thought-provoking for me, it's nothing's better.
I think there's something really cool about people coming out to see these really interesting discussions too. Like Jordan had a debate with this
Slavoj Žižek, yeah.
Thank you for saying his name.
Yeah. I think I pronounced it right, maybe.
you better you than me. About Marxism.
Yeah.
And it sold out.
Yeah, of course.
And then they had pay-per-view. People were buying it and watching it.
Of course. This was like the WWE of our time. Yes. It's like, how are these two people in a room together? I want to see this.
And they actually wound up agreeing on quite a few things. And just it's really an interesting discussion. But it's also interesting that Marxism is such a attractive subject that they're willing to host this giant event and pay to see people debate this topic. It's like this idea that you could fill up a whole arena for an intellectual discourse.
Yeah.
Or a theater. I mean, I don't know how big the place was. And then you could also sell pay-per-view tickets for it. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who the hell's going to pay to hear that?
But
that's school. Get out of here with that shit.
It's not. I wish school was like that.
I wish, right?
There's no better way to get kids to hate learning than school. Every kid is so excited about the world. Wants to go to the museum. Not every kid, a lot. Read books. Then you go to school and that all goes away. So you're a factory worker. So anything that reinvigorates, your show does this too, reinvigorates your love of learning and how much there's so much interesting, crazy shit out there. Who doesn't love that?
Yeah,
and that's the other thing.
Creative.
The jocks back in the day didn't have that space. And now, thanks to you and people like you, it's like, you know what? I don't like reading books. Reading's not for me. I could sit here and listen for 3 hours, and I'm going to be a smarter person than I was 3 hours ago and learn stuff. Who doesn't love history?
Yeah.
Even if you're the biggest meathead, it's like, this shit's interesting. Or like these crazy animals. The biggest meathead will be like, oh shit, that's cool. Did you hear about this, the giraffe weevil, which has a hinge in its neck, but only the males, and it's from Madagascar? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
It is a real thing. And I was going to say this, it's fuel for your curiosity.
Yeah.
And for your creativity. It's going to give you ideas. It's going to, there's so much fuel for creativity right now, more so than any other time. There's so much information and interesting shit you could learn and do it easily. You could just find I need to learn about economics, and you just find an economics podcast and start playing it. And if the person's good, if they're interesting to talk to and they can do it in a fun way. You ever listen to Peter Schiff?
I know.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
He knows his shit. I've had him on a few times, and the way he describes things, it's like he's entertaining as well as factual, as well as just a compelling, charismatic person. While he's talking about these things, he's getting fired up, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's how it works.
Yeah.
It's so much better than absorbing it in a dry, stale manner.
And then you go from that, he mentioned this thing. Let me learn about this. Oh, there's a YouTube video about this, and you go down this rabbit hole, and it's just like hours of entertainment, and you can have better conversations with other people. Hey, I learned about this, and that.
Yeah, I feel so far behind kids these days. Like when I meet an 18-year-old today, they're like a 30-year-old when I was a kid.
In what way?
They're smarter. They have more info. They
Yeah.
have more data. They know what's horseshit and what's not. When we were in our 20s, we didn't know what the fuck was real and what was fake. There was no YouTube.
Right.
There was no Google. There was books, and you didn't read them.
Oh, I read them.
Yeah, you might have.
I read a
You
lot
might
of them,
have.
Joe.
Yeah, I'm older than you.
Yeah, you had books.
We
I'm older
didn't
than
read
books.
about to find out whether or not something's true.
Right.
Like we do today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like when I was in my 20s, I wasn't researching subjects. I've read a few books here and there, but I wasn't researching things on every single aspect of the world. The way the access to this information is just so radically different that you just have a thing in your pocket that answers your questions.
What else is fascinating is Google and other organizations have digitized entire libraries. So many of these books that are old are public domain, and for free, you can read this book from 1910 where these ideas got started. And instead of hearing someone's interpretation of it now, you can see where this idea developed in how they looked at the world back then.
Now, here's the real question.
Yeah.
Is that absolutely, we both agree, incredibly valuable resource. Is that worth giving up the data? Like, maybe we should just accept the fact that they gave us something that changed the world. So of course they got super rich. Hey, Mark Zuckerberg, I know what you did. It's okay. It's okay. You take that data.
Yeah, take it, bitch. Yeah, you like that shit.
You become
Yeah.
the richest person in the world. You deserve it. You shouldn't just give it away for free.
Well,
Change the world in a better way. No, you should take advantage of the fact that you changed the world in a better way to profit in some insane, spectacular way where you generate billions and billions of dollars.
the thing we don't know is how they are generating that profit. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So if they're doing it in a certain way that we know about, all right. If they don't, this is where it gets tricky because there's an element of fraud in it.
Well, I think they must be terrified, and both Twitter and Facebook. They must be terrified of their influence of culture. The actual
Oh yeah, of
influence they
course.
have.
There's no way they can't.
The responsibility must be insane.
Do you know how you know this?
How?
Because a lot of people who were Republicans during the Iraq War, and now look back on it, who were beating the drum beats, and I'm not going to name names. You watch interviews, and they're like, "That shit was fucked up." And when you look back and you realize you had a part to play in this unnecessary war, and if you're someone who cares about human beings as a Christian, whatever, that will fuck you up for life, because it's like I had a little part in this. Like when I do my work with North Korea, right? If I help 10 people. That's a huge fucking deal, and I don't take that shit lightly. Here's the power of social media. I've had people, 3 or 4, tell me, I'm going through chemo, and I read your Twitter, and it makes me laugh throughout the day. That's fucking huge.
Conversely, if you're on the side of Hillary Clinton and you realize that your website might be contributing to her demise,
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh,
that you
yeah.
realize that other countries might be posting fake accounts that are they have these groups, these discussion groups, and they're based in Russia, and they want to talk about Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
or they want to talk about
Right.
abortion, or they want to talk about Southern separatism, or all kinds of, that IRA research group in Russia. When you find out this is all happening on your platform, and that your platform
Yeah.
is likely being used
Yeah.
to manipulate how the world is run, how financial markets are run, international politics, and you just wanted to help college kids get laid.
Yeah, right.
And
And-
kind of jack the idea
What
too,
about
right?
what about the kids when they were torturing that retarded kid and it was at Chicago and they were streaming it on Facebook? That's your site. That's got to fuck with your head.
It's got it. Well, there's been murders.
And the guy live streaming New Zealand, he was
Yes.
live streaming.
I mean, there's many, many cases of horrible things that have been put on there. ISIS beheadings, and there's no way they can catch it all. There's no way. When you talk to Twitter or you talk to Facebook or YouTube, and they'll tell you I want everyone to just think about the idea that 7 billion people. Let's be real conservative. Potentially 3 billion people.
Sure.
Just 3 billion.
Just, yeah,
3
yeah.
billion people can all send something at once.
At the speed of light.
Billions of bits of information headed towards YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, and they're just trying to catch it all. Some of it's Nazis and some of it's frogs, and Alex Jones, ban his name, and everything's flying in. I'm like, ah! And then Congress is like, Mr. Zuckerberg, do you know what you're doing? He's like, hold on, let me drink my water. Hold on.
Yeah.
Mr. Senator, yes, we know what we're doing, I think.
Right.
Mr. Senator? No, there's no.
As if that senator knows what he's doing also.
He's not a monk.
Right.
He's not some scholar. He's not a genius. He's not enlightened. He's a guy. He's not a stupid guy. He's a smart guy. But he's just a person, just
Right.
a human, and has an insane connection. He's the CEO of one of the biggest groups on the planet where people exchange conversation. and
Which still
information.
hasn't verified me on Instagram, by the way. But it reminds
Why not?
Because they're Nazis.
How many followers you got?
Only 7,000.
all you
Instagram's
got?
that's my weakest one.
Bro,
Yeah.
catch the fuck up.
But it's also like Lucille Ball when she's working at the chocolate factory, right? The
remember
chocolates
that
are coming out, and then they go faster and faster.
Oh yeah.
There's a certain point where you're not going to be able to process this much information and scan it. And any filter,
impossible.
any filter by its nature, any coder will tell you, is going to be imperfect, and it's going to weed out people it doesn't want to weed out, and leave people in that you don't want to leave in. Like any filter is only as good as its creator.
That's what I wanted people to kind of understand from Jack, and he did a pretty good job of explaining that, and then saying that it just shows you the problems with trying to monitor these things at scale.
But the thing I would say to Jack is one workaround: if someone is a high enough platform where they're contributing, like the laws against obscenity, the ruling was if there's some cultural benefit here, it's not regarded as obscene, right? That's a loophole. If someone is big enough in terms of they're part of the public conversation, you should have a manual person double check or triple check before they're blocked. You could give them a warning, explain why, because it's important for
Okay,
people.
but here's the question: block
Sure.
for what?
If there's got to be rules where you are getting blocked. If you're threatening violence against someone,
Yes.
like if you're sending like dick pics to a reporter, you should be blocked. I mean,
And if you have you're putting up people's information,
Right, doxing.
putting people's address out,
Right.
you can go to your home,
Right.
telling people you want to pay someone $100 to take the photo. You got a
Right.
photo and video of someone who's not giving you
Right.
permission. You're uploading it and offering. This is what that guy did.
Yes, and he's still
Offering
verified.
$100. That's crazy.
so with
Now,
someone,
how does that work?
ask him. I'm not Jack.
How could that work?
I don't know Jack. Get it? But very easily, people like that, you should tell them that would you be banning if you're doxing people.
Yes.
But someone is doing a parody, you could be like, take this down for X, Y, and Z reasons.
Dude, the thing is, I think they tried to make a differentiation between doxing someone and threatening to dox someone. This is how they kept Kathy Griffin on.
Right.
Remember when she was saying, I want names
Of these kids, yeah.
Who are these kids? You know, imagine if they did, and the kids eventually, all their information did wind up getting online. But when you watch the full video and you saw what actually happened, you're like, God damn. Like, you people have really
Here's the other
shifted
thing.
the
Do
narrative
you think
here.
if I posted a picture of myself holding up a bloody Hillary Clinton head, that I wouldn't be banned? I'm not going to find out, but that's a big deal. And she was obviously doing it as a joke. I didn't find it offensive. I think it'd be funny if she was wearing a hijab while she took the photo. But the point is, she had no consequences on Twitter.
None. Yeah, I think you would be banned.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive you'd be banned. For whatever reason, it's more disturbing to see a guy hold a woman's head
Sure, that's true.
than to see.
But even if it was Obama,
The idea is that, like, Kathy Griffin probably wouldn't be able to cut Trump's head off. Like, he'd kick her ass
he's a big dude.
if she came at him with a knife. I mean, she'd have to shoot him and then cut his head off, which I guess she could do. It's not as
No,
likely.
she's got to use the palms.
the palm to the nose.
The palm to the nose.
The nose bone in the brain.
How would you do that? I'm just trying to like run the numbers in my head. There's 126 million daily users on Twitter. How many people should they hire?
Remember when we were asking?
Yeah, no, that's like I'm like that's going back over my head. Like how that queue, if someone could get through 100 a day, if they could get through 100 a day, spending 5 minutes
Sure.
on each of them, that's 500 minutes. That's more than there. It's like it's
Manually, there's no way you're going to
Yeah,
do it.
I don't
And I think
You're
it's
gonna have
smart.
to use
The,
machine.
the reporting system's smart.
Yes.
Like you're relying on the users to report things that are an issue. That's,
Right.
That's smart.
But it falls victim to trolling because
Sure.
then someone can just decide to attack Jamie Vernon. Don't do it.
God, trolls are the worst.
Yeah, those fuck. Oh, that's huge.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
No, that's the
silly
bad kind of
goose.
trolling. That's just being an asshole.
Dude, we already did 3 hours.
Oh.
How is that possible?
I'm just adorable and charming.
I guess that's something happened. I'll go with that. As good an answer as any. Your book is called The New Right. We barely talked about it.
That's more stuff people read.
Yeah, a journey to the. How's the first 12 pages? Inside joke. A journey to the fringe of American politics. Michael Malice, and thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
That was a
Good
pleasure,
talking to you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
That was a lot of fun.
We're live. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Hello, Annie.
Hello, Jeff.
Very nice to meet you. I'm excited to talk to you. I'm super excited to talk to you about several subjects, but this one, thank you very much for this first edition copy of your Area 51, an uncensored history of America's top secret military base book. I'm super excited about this.
I heard through the grapevine you were a fan.
I'm a freak when it comes to this stuff. What do you think is going on up there?
I mean, same thing that's going on all over the place when it comes to military secrets, which is stuff that you want to know about, very few people know about, and every now and then a journalist gets a hint. Right?
Yeah. Do you think there's any alien stuff up there?
I write in a book all about that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, tell me.
Last 12 pages. You want me to?
Want me to go to the
you
last 12
read?
pages? What do you think?
So Area 51 was this secret test base where the CIA was running spy plane programs, right? So interestingly, my new book is about ground branch, guys on the ground. That's about air branch, what we were doing in the air. And it was this idea that we should spy on the enemy, okay? But if you go back in time, why Area 51 really started, you learn that it was a base hidden inside of a base, nuclear weapons. And it was all about beating Stalin at his black propaganda campaign, as I write in the book, to hoax Americans in a War of the Worlds type scenario, whereby little men who looked like aliens would get out of an aircraft, and the government would go crazy about it. And then Stalin would say, look, not only do we have technology better than you, but we have a better propaganda department.
Really?
Joe, you got to read the whole book. I mean,
okay.
this is a tough opening. You got me
It
on
is
the
a tough
spot,
opening, but it's a good spot.
right?
It's a good spot.
Right?
So Stalin he just hired short people? Like, what did he do?
All right, I'm going to make you save that. I'm going to make you earn
Save
that.
it?
Yeah.
How's that?
I mean, you want me to talk about that right now, right off the bat?
Why is that?
I'm sweating.
We're gonna get to surprise, kill, vanish as well. But I want to just Why does it make you sweat?
Oh my God, it's such an incendiary topic. I mean, people want to believe they're aliens.
Right.
Right? Okay. I mean, I've spent 5 books dealing with the mythology of Area 51, which is phenomenal in its own way because it speaks so much to power, to morality, to information, to people's desire to know what's going on, and the government's desire to keep things hidden. So this topic is always coming up because a lot of people want to believe that there were aliens in that craft. And my source, who I write about in the book, told me otherwise, that they were genetically, that they were...
Let me stop you right there, because when you say that craft, what you mean is the supposed UFO wreckage that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. That's what you mean, right?
Yes.
But that was never supposedly taken to Area 51. It was supposed to be taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The legend has it that Truman flew there to meet them, and right?
That's one legend.
Yeah.
So, in my book, I interview a man who worked for the Atomic Energy Commission, who tells a different story. Tells the story of receiving that craft at Area 51 in 1951, which is why the base is called Area 51.
Oh.
And that inside the craft were humans who had been altered, surgically altered to look like aliens, in a plan for Stalin to sort of twist Truman's arm, because at that time, we had the atomic bomb. When Roswell happened, we had the atomic bomb, and the Soviets did not.
Can I stop you there? When you say humans that were surgically altered to look like aliens, do you mean... So this is 1951. So you're talking about 4 years after the supposed crash.
Yes.
So what
They
was
had the
left?
bodies, they kept the bodies.
They kept the
brought them.
bodies. In what?
And-
Formaldehyde? Like, what?
Yes, and also because the idea was, and remember, or I can't say remember because you haven't read the book yet.
Right.
And I wrote this book 8 years ago. But it did really impact a lot of my thinking and working on government secrecy projects, because it makes you really consider what a hoax means and what it means to a population of people, and how the government begins to work with disinformation versus cover stories and all of that. But going back to answer your question, that is what I was told by the source. That
But how reliable is this source? This is a very incendiary idea to rely upon one individual's recollection of it.
which is why the book went through the roof in terms of people being upset about it. I mean,
Were they?
Oh my God! I interviewed 79 CIA guys, Air Force guys, spy pilots, engineers. I mean,
Who's mad at you?
The conspiracy theorists were mad at me because they said this woman is bananas. They were aliens.
Well, even if they weren't aliens, right? There's accounts that it was some sort. Now we're live. 3, 2, 1, boom. Hello, Annie. Now we're. And we're live. How are you, sir? What's going on, man?
Very well, thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for the coffee machine. And I just learned that it's turmeric. I used to say turmeric. I used to not even think there was an R in there for some strange reason.
Well, in Hawaii, it's Olena, so it just
really?
depends on which country you're in. Yeah,
It's a what is it? It's a root, right?
yeah, it's in the ginger family.
And is it why do they call it Olena? Is that a
That's just
Polynesian
a
word for
Hawaiian
it?
name. I mean, the Indians probably have another. In India, it's probably one of the most used, roots. It's in all Indian foods. It's full of it.
Yeah, it's really healthy for you, right? It's great for inflammation.
Yeah,
Just-
and well, gut health too.
So you gave me this Laird Superfoods coffee machine, and I'm addicted to this now. This coffee with turmeric. I've never had it before.
Well, there's some other minerals and stuff in there too. So if you're addicted to it, it's because there's things that are good for you.
Yeah, like I crave it.
Yeah,
like it
yeah.
seems like something.
Well,
I should
your
be
body
drinking.
wants it.
Yeah,
I think sometimes people think cravings are based on negative, like it's bad because I crave it. But I think cravings are natural. I think, but it's we abuse it when we use garbage. But
Right.
when you're craving something like that, I mean, there's a bunch of minerals and a bunch of good fats, and there's a bunch of good stuff in there.
yeah. It's hard to tell though, right? Like sometimes you crave sugar. Sometimes you crave ice cream. Like
Yeah.
there's some cravings that are not good. But
Exactly.
Other ones are.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
the system of craving, I believe, is part of a natural human thing that we have that was meant to crave good things, but we abuse it because sugar in nature is meant to be safe. That means
Right.
it's safe to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fruit, right?
But then we abuse it by disguising a bunch of garbage with sugar, and then people think, oh, that's great to eat.
That makes sense. Yeah, because whenever I lift weights, I crave protein.
Yeah.
I crave like fish or chicken or steak or something.
Yeah. Well, you're beating up muscles. You want protein.
Yeah, but it's an instantaneous craving.
Yeah.
Like it's like right away I'm like, oh, I gotta eat something. Yeah. So you've got me cranking the sauna up. Your wife told me that you crank yours up to 220 degrees. Is that real?
That's real.
God damn, man. I get to 210 and I'm like, how long do you do it? 220?
Well, it depends on how cold you go into it.
Oh, okay.
So if your core temperature is way down, you can, if you got off a stationary bike and your core was nice and hot and you went in there, you'd be lucky to get 10 or 15 minutes out. If you come out of a ice tub or you've been outside with minimal clothing, you could go in there and for 20 minutes at 220. So it just depends on, where your core is.
Is that how you do it? You do from an ice bath?
I will do it from an ice bath. It just, I think you just break it up. It's just like any kind of training. You just want to constantly stress the system. And if you're used to a certain pattern, go into it hot. Like if you go into a sauna hot, coming off of some cardio, that it's twice as hot. If you go in cold, then you can go for a longer period of time. And same with the ice. I mean, if you go into the ice cold, the ice will tap you. If you go in hot, you can be there. So
yeah, they're doing some studies now on hot yoga out of Harvard. They're trying to figure out if hot yoga mimics the positive health effects of sauna. And so the idea is that, because you're straining and resisting, it feels much hotter than 104 degrees. If you had a sauna, if it was 104, 105 degrees, it'd be nothing.
For sure.
But yoga at 105 degrees is pretty rough.
Well, because again, core temperature is
Yeah.
hot. So we do some stationary bikes in the sauna.
Oh, wow.
And that's just, it's like you can always up the ante. It's like a weight stack. Just slap more lead on there. And we'll go in this with an assault bike. I have an assault bike in one of the saunas, and we'll crank that thing up. And, and you're lucky. You might be 5 or 10 minutes, and you're. But I think we're such good adapters. Our adaptation is amazing, and you do some stuff for a while. I think pretty soon you're like, oh, I can handle an assault bike at a survivable pace.
Yeah, survivable. That's a rough machine. I have the Rogue version, the Echo bike.
Yeah.
That thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
For sure.
That is
It's all 4 limbs.
Yeah, all 4 limbs. It's one of my all-time two Tabatas. I
Yeah.
do Tabata sprints
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
My all-time favorite method of cardio.
For
I love
sure,
it.
for
Yeah.
sure. Well, low impact on the system. You're not beating the joints up. All 4 things are working.
And
You
you
could
get
throw in some
toast.
nose breathing in there or something, and breath holding intervals or something, just to, pain and suffering.
You were explaining nose breathing to me out there.
Yeah.
How nose breathing is better
Better for you.
because of.
Well, first of all, you were designed to breathe. Your sinuses and your nose were designed for breathing. And so you actually emit a gas in your sinuses, from my understanding, a gas called nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. It helps you absorb oxygen. So by breathing through your nose, plus you reduce the amount of intake that you have, and that gets you CO2 tolerant. So all of a sudden you're breathing less volume. I mean, from the fight game, as soon as a guy goes to mouth breathing, you're like, he's toast. You know that, right? That's your first giveaway.
Yeah.
So your ability to deal with stress and breathe through your nose. I mean, everybody should be breathing through their nose in their sleep, walking around. I mean, we became mouth breathers in the last 200 years, and they're not sure why. There's a great book called The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McGould that he actually is on our board of XPT, but he kind of realized that our issues really stem from mouth breathing, chronic mouth breathing, which is scrubbing our CO2 and keeping our CO2 levels down, which is the marker to absorb oxygen. So when your CO2 levels are down, you don't absorb the oxygen from your bloodstream. The cells don't take it. As soon as the CO2 goes up, then the body starts to pull it out of the blood.
Interesting. So smaller amounts by breathing through the nose actually makes you absorb more oxygen.
Well, it keeps your tolerance.
Keeps your tolerance.
Yeah, but definitely get your CO2 tolerant up. But the smaller volume helps your body become more tolerant of higher levels of CO2. But the sinuses themselves emit a gas that helps the lung absorb the oxygen. And that's what I've been led to understand.
I had a broken nose until I was 40. My nose was useless. I couldn't get anything out of it. It had been broken like who knows how many times.
Yeah.
And the inside was all caked up with scar tissue and calcified. And when I got it fixed, it was like the world changed. It was like, I couldn't do that. I just couldn't breathe out of my nose.
Yeah.
I would go to yoga class. He'd tell me to breathe out of my nose. I'm like, I don't have one. I'm like, I could smell farts.
Yeah.
That's it. I could smell gas and gasoline. Like, it has to be rough for me to smell it. But now I have a real nose.
Yeah.
I always encourage people, please, if you have a broken nose, please get that deviated septum fixed.
Well, it's surprising if you start to nose breathe, even if you have struggle, because of that gas helps you open up. A lot of people, I mean, I'm not saying that you have that, but a lot of people actually will gain volume after a few weeks of forcing themselves to nose breathe. They'll actually start to open up all of that system.
That makes sense.
So
your body just adapt and try.
it forces it to open. But no, it's all about nose breathing.
Yeah. I didn't think. I just thought it was just more difficult. So it's probably a good thing to do for discipline.
Absolutely. And if you can do your cardio and retain a nose breath, you have another gear. Because then when you go to mouth, it's like it's like having a blower in your car or something. You open up the air, and it's a whole new game. So by being able to sustain a high output with nose breathing, then and like I said, it's all about the tolerance for CO2. It's how much CO2 you can handle in your system. Like that's why altitude screws people up, because the CO2 jacks up and they don't have a tolerance, and then you get all wonky and you feel like crap.
Yeah, and it's interesting you're talking about cravings, because one of the things that I've noticed since I cranked up the temperature in the sauna for the first week to 200 degrees, and I've been doing 210 for the last few days. And you crave it now. I crave it. Like when I'm at home, I'm like, I can't wait to get back in that goddamn sauna again. Meanwhile, when I'm in there, I can't wait to get out. It's weird.
There within lies the struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, ice is the same way. Like I have an addiction to ice, and recently just came back from Hawaii, and I'm like dealing with this ice machine's broken down. I'm waiting for the new one. I keep calling the guy and go, hey, when are you gonna put the thing in? And he's thinking it's like a luxury. Like, yeah, you got it. What do you need an ice machine at your house for? Because I have two like restaurant size ones.
Two of them?
Yeah. And well, I have a lot of friends. But he's like, what do you need that for? And I'm like, just get. He's got the tubs. I'm like, my body craves. You get it. Listen, your body is just craving the things that are bringing the hormones and doing. I mean, it's like why you crave exercise. I have a theory that the reason why people are hooked to cardio activity is because it's forced breathing. That because you wouldn't willingly just sit on your floor and breathe heavy for an hour. Right. So your body's like, okay, let's go for a run. Like, let's go. You need to run. You better run. And then you go run, and then the body gets that absorption gets that oxygen that it really wants.
I feel like there's probably several factors, because also I feel like when I'm really consistent with my workouts, I know that I'm gaining momentum, and I know I'm consistent, everything's going great, I'm in great shape right now, I got to keep pushing this. Yeah. That feels like it feels like just positive results are being achieved, and you sort of get addicted to success.
Well, but also to the body, the adaptation. If you ever put yourself under some real severe stress in multiple days, the first day you feel like you're not going to be able to make it. The second day you're feeling, like you can't make it. The third, pretty soon the fourth day, the body's like, oh, this is the new house we're living in. Like this is where we're at. Okay, well, we're going to adapt and modify. And then pretty soon you're doing even more than you were doing the first couple days, and you're not even feeling it. Yeah. And so it's like we're an amazing machine. We're an amazing creature. Just the way we can handle the load, and especially in our new world where we don't have to do much.
Yeah. Yeah, unless we want to. Do you know who Eddie Izzard is?
Yeah.
The comedian?
Yeah.
He ran a series of marathons all around the UK, and then he did one in South Africa. And he was on 2 weeks ago, and he was telling me that when you first started doing it, like the first few were really hard, but then your body's like, well, this is what we do. We run marathons. And then like day 3, day 4, things started picking up, day 5, and by the time day 10 came along, he's just running.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I got a friend ran 125 in a row, and then he ran the Boston after that. And then he had a fight in Vegas, and he ran a marathon in the morning, and then he knocked the guy out in the third round. And after, I mean, he
ran a marathon in the morning and then fought that day. Holy shit! Who is this?
Tom Jones, Muay Thai, 7-time Muay Thai world champion.
Jesus Christ, Tom Jones.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? You run a marathon the day you fight? Imagine if a dude knocked you out after you ran a marathon. I'd be like, I'm done. This is not me.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn how to play golf.
Yeah.
Fuck this.
Yeah, Muay Thai.
Fuck this and fuck Tom Jones.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. That's crazy. So he ran 125 marathons in a row. So 125 days of marathons?
To Boston, and then he ran the Boston when he got there. Oh. He ran across the country.
What?
He ran across the country.
So that's how he got there? Yeah. Well, so he ran a marathon, took a nap, ate some food, ran a marathon, took a nap, ate some. What the fuck?
But it just shows you that that ability to adapt and what we can do. It's amazing how the body will just, when you push it and you it'll just be like, it'll ramp. I mean, and I think for us in our new world that we live in, that seems so crazy, but probably in the past we were like, oh yeah, well, we went all the way down to South America and we did some hunting down there, and then we trekked a marathon or two per day, and we came all the way back to Alaska,
right.
That was just our life.
Alive. Yeah. Well, especially when they used to persistence hunt, when they would just run an animal down, because animals are great for sprints, but especially like gazelles and things along those lines.
But you know what the real technique really is based on is that our breathing. That breathing is what gives us, we have an ability to adjust our breath. So we can actually adjust how many times we breathe per motion, where a lot of these animals are breathing for a rep. Every rep is a breath. So every step is and we can do multiple steps in one breath. And so that's why we can outrun a horse. At the end of the day, you always see that in the cowboy movies, the horse is laying dead in the desert, and the guy's still going along. But because those mammals are breathing, every breath is a rep. And you imagine how tiring that is. Like you hear a horse run, right? They're breathing and we're running full speed, but we can just do a breath and then do 5 or 6 or 8 reps, and that gives us that endurance. That's why we can run those gazelles down, because those guys are just they're breathed out.
That's interesting. Well, I'm always very appreciative of guys like you that are in my age range. You're 55,
Yeah.
right? I'm 51.
Speed limit, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Speed limit.
But you're also very fit and very active, and you keep going. Whereas a lot of guys around 55, like, it's a wrap.
Turn off the car.
Yeah, there's not much in the tank, and so
Yeah.
I like to see guys that are in my age bracket
Yeah.
or a little bit ahead of me, like, oh, he's going. I can keep going too.
Oh, full speed.
And I think a lot of that is just thinking and knowing that you can, because I think so many people feel like, hey, I'm 45, it's time to settle down, it's time to relax,
Yeah.
and wind down this exercise.
But, I think that people use that as a disclaimer to not do the work.
That's
It's
what I'm
like now I'm
thinking.
45, so now I don't. I'm too old.
Yeah.
Right. That's for me. I think that's a way out. Right. That's a way to go. Hey, I don't want to do the work anymore. And I have one of my best friends just passed this last year, and he was 85 when he passed, and he was he did the Ironman 10 times. The first time was when he was 50, and then he's done the Race Across America 3 times. I mean, he was just an animal. Bang iron every day, ride the bike, just
At 85, he was doing all that still?
an animal. An animal till the day he died. I was like,
Wow.
and his name was, and this is the irony was, his name was Don Wildman. And so, like, that's his given name. No, I'm serious. That's
amazing.
His given name. I go, anybody named the Wildman's got to keep it up. But he was, like you're talking about, when you can see it, right? When you go, what does it look like when I see? I mean, you look at. It's interesting to see in sports right now. We have a lot of athletes right now that are operating as they're the oldest that we've seen, and I believe a lot of it has to do with the fact that they have some examples, but they're also not accepting that, hey, now you're too old. Like that's because that's a decision. Like, hey, oh, now you're too old. Oh yeah, you're going to keep doing that. It's like, yeah, you're going to do it all the way until they throw the dirt on the box. Like we're going all the way full speed until we're not, and then when we're not, we're not.
What did Mr. Wildman die of?
It was a cancer that he couldn't get fight through chemo, and so but it was within like a couple weeks. Like he just was like shut it down. It was at one point. He was a little bit like the Eveready Bunny and Humpty Dumpty. Like he would just like double knee surgery, like within like. He had a broken leg and he'd be on a stationary bike with a crutch on one of the pedals, and he'd be pedaling and crutching on the other leg. I mean, he was just absolutely out of his mind. And the doctors be like, oh, you're healing faster than a 30-year-old. And I'm like, yeah, well, because he's just a cardio monster. And so he's getting that blood flow. And we were helicopter snowboarding in Chile this last summer, not this one, but the one before. And I'm with the guide, and the guy goes, hey, how old's your buddy? And I'm like, oh, he's 84. And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, no, I mean, but how old is he? And I'm like, he's 84. And he's like, yeah, he's 84. Like, check it out, buddy. He's going fakey, and like, I mean, he was our poster child. He's our guy. We look at, we go. I mean, and I've had a few of those. I think, that I've been exposed to in my life, where there's guys that those are the guys that I always admired. I always admired the guys that just were always going full speed and never, they didn't succumb to all that pressure from society, like, hey, you're old now, you can still do that, what do you think, you're a kid? Just all the bullshit that you can feed into and be a victim of.
Yeah, we have these preconceived notions of what it's like to be 30, what it's like to be 50, what it's like to be 85. And some people are like, yeah, you can fuck that. I'm not interested.
Yeah, because they're never looking at age as some like feeling. Like they're never going, oh, 35, you feel like this. At 40, oh, you're slowing down now. And like, you lay down. It's like, I always say, if people stop doing something, like they go, oh, I'm going to retire now, I'm getting old in the sport. It's really not that they're getting old. It's just that they made a decision that they don't want to do anymore. And they just use the age as a disclaimer, like, hey, I'm good,
Yeah, for some folks, I think it's a mental tiredness.
For sure.
Keeping up their enthusiasm is probably the difficult thing. And that's why I think a lot of people look forward to retirement, right? They look forward to those golden years where they just holding hands and walking toward the sunset.
Just jump on a sword. I mean, no, I'm just, I mean, it's just like, at that point, you're just alive dead.
Yeah.
You're dead, but you're alive. Like,
But I think some people look forward to some day where they don't have to struggle.
then they can't be on Earth.
Yeah.
You can't be. You can't. I'm just saying. Well, you can. I mean, like, I'm sorry. The system is a little bit designed to struggle. Everything that we do that's good for us has a certain amount of stress. It's like, you want to get in that sauna, you want to get on that salt bike, you want to jump in that ring, you want to hike that mountain. It's all stress driven, and the fact is that's our universe. That's the universe we live in, and so if you got some other and I appreciate, let's hack our way through it, and I think there's ways that hacking supports us. We can hack our way to, but only support the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
But thinking that you can just hack your way through and not actually suffer, it's impossible. You just you're gonna suffer.
I also think you don't appreciate the good times unless you suffer.
Absolutely.
So I think I appreciate food more when I work out. I appreciate life more. I like doing things more when I struggle.
Absolutely. I can tell you, I know sitting down is an incredible thing. Like when you go, wow, this feels so good.
Just to sit down. Yeah, because you're straining so hard. Yeah.
For sure.
A lot of people don't recognize that. That's a lesson I think people really need to get drilled into their head.
It's not that tricky.
Right.
No, I'm just saying, this isn't rocket science. This isn't like elaborate. It's available for everybody. Just move.
Yeah, just move.
Just keep going. Drive it hard.
Yeah.
And I can promise you, you'll sleep better. Like everybody, we have a lot of sleeping issues right now, and I'm just like, well, people aren't tired enough. Yeah. Like my daughter was like, oh yeah, having a hard time sleeping, and now she's been banging tennis balls 7 hours a day, and I'm telling you, she's not having a problem sleeping now.
Right.
Like she's sleeping real well. I'm like, yeah, I think that a lot of it's just a lack of movement. We just not moving.
Yeah, and then your brain races because your body's not getting exhausted, so you develop all this anxiety and all this weirdness. Hunter-gatherers did not have the need for Ambien.
I guarantee it.
Yeah,
there was no melatonin. There was no need. Yeah. The melatonin was created in their retina from staring at the sun in the early morning light. I mean, they were up, they were moving, and they were up early, and they were going until dark. And at dark, it was time to lay down, and then you just did that, and you were not. Sleep issues weren't a problem back then.
It's interesting. I'm learning from my dog because my dog is up first thing in the morning when the sun is up, and then when it starts getting dark out, once he eats, man, he's just laying down. He's like, "What's up? I'm just chilling over here."
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm constantly studying my dog. I would have brought him, but he's getting his nails done today.
Is it really?
Yeah. Well, because he's just ripping up the floor. He's got some hooks, but I watch him never leaves his bed without stretching first in the morning. First thing, down, up dog, down dog, full up, down dog, and then full speed. 80 miles an hour like a rocket, and then just right to the couch and lay down, and then just be totally sleeping, and then just up full speed back to the couch and lay down. I go. There's something to be said about that thing. A little stretch, full speed, lay down. Full speed, lay down. Like,
but no warm up.
No warm up.
That's
no warm up.
But people need warm up. Do you agree?
I don't know if I don't know about warm up. I think warm up is being alive. I think we never warmed up. I mean, what's that?
What about if you're going to lift something heavy? Do you think that you should warm the muscles up first?
Well, I think if you set the thing up and you put everything on and you set it all up, you're already starting to warm up. And if you're psyching up and getting your brain ready to do something aggressive, I think that the adrenaline's already going and you got a lot of stuff. I mean, I know if you just get up off a chair and walk over and try to grab a giant bar with a bunch of weight on it and lift it, that might be a problem. But that wouldn't be, you would never do that in nature when you were going to lift something heavy. Usually there'd be some lead up to it, whether you walk to the place that you were going to and you got the thing and, I don't know about because I think there's mixed opinions about, people say don't stretch before you work out. And that's been the most recent thing. Before it used to be, loosen up before you work out. And I'm like, my dog does down dog, up dog, down dog, and that's only after he's laying down. And then he just goes full speed. Well,
I know that if I do Muay Thai, if I'm hitting the bag or something like that, I don't go hard at first.
Yeah.
I break a sweat.
Yeah.
I do the first 2 rounds, I'm just shadow boxing.
Yeah.
I don't full blast the bag until I'm sweaty.
Yeah.
But that's just my thoughts. I feel like that's the way you're supposed to do it. That's what I've always been told.
Yeah. I think I would connect that more to part of it is because of what we are now.
Because we're sedentary and because we're
we're not what we're not fully in our nature essence. We're not wild. If we were wild, I think we wouldn't need as much any warm up. When you're wild, you don't need a warm up. But I think because we're not moving as much, because if you're moving all the time, you'd already be warmed up.
I would like to see a human from like 5,000 years ago. I'd love to be around like a hunter-gatherer and see what they looked like.
Their pain threshold was crazy, first of all. What they could endure. Their pain threshold was just ridiculous.
Right,
like broken
bones.
arm and be like, we'd still be operating with broken stuff, no problem.
Yeah, what did they do? They just kind of like tied it up or something. I don't know what they did.
That was when they advanced into medical.
Right. Yeah, right. A lot of them probably just hobbled around until it didn't hurt as much.
Well, that's where inflammation came in. in, everything got inflamed so that it would hold it, naturally the body would hold it in position so that inflammation's designed to kind of immobilize it, cast it. It would, if it was your ankle, it would just get so